Action.
Action. Hi, Calvin.
Hi.
It's great to see you again.
It's great to see you.
It's really been a
again.
long time.
It has been.
So Calvin and I knew each other, years ago by hanging out in the bar that I met my wife at, actually, right down the street from my studio. Just getting maybe a little bit more than drunk with one TJ Travelby. We still see him every now and again.
Really?
Yes, he's around. He actually used to work at the IBM as well. He's still playing music, and he's going to do this at some point. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so you took a hiatus. I mean, you
took a hiatus, yeah.
And and you got to build a business. That's cool.
Yeah.
And when you come back, like, did you feel like alive and like full of life? And how did you check yourself to not fall back in the same trap of the paths that you went down before in creating music and being authentic to your current self instead of your former self?
I don't think I really thought about that. For me, I'm sort of always writing anyway from my current self. The trap of my past is fear, has always been fear, or self-doubt, But now, after a short hiatus, I was just craving creating again, and knew that I needed it. And this time I don't, for better or worse, I don't really have some larger goal. Whereas I think when I was younger, I did. I think I wanted to do something with what I was creating, and that was important to me. Whereas now I realize that I'm actually the happiest while creating. So just keeping that in my life is important, and I think that then some traps fall away naturally when the goal is just to make something.
You had mentioned like your headspace being, it's on and then it's off, and that's quite different than probably anything you had before, I feel.
True.
And so did you feel after the hiatus and then really changing the habits of your life, did you achieve, more volume? Not that volume equals quality, but a lot of times it's just, ideation requires a lot of that, and then you're sorting through the good and the bad, and then choosing what's best. Did you find that to be the case?
Yeah, I think being able to enter a space for maybe a longer amount of time without distraction helps volume for sure. It also just helps focus and introspection. But I also believe that one can accomplish something in an hour if they decide to. And so even before my schedule, I was able to make my schedule more open. I could still spend if I decided to, I could spend an hour, write a song, work on a writing project or something like that. I think really it was just accepting. Hello, Mike. Smack that. Accepting that this is who I am, or a major aspect of who I am, and that if it's not fed, then I'm not as balanced or as well,
So besides like music, you mentioned some of your writing projects. Like, when I knew you before, you were doing voiceover, you were being an actor, a bartender, trying to open up a bar, singing in your closet, all this great stuff.
All of which is still happening.
Yeah, which is
to
awesome.
some degree.
Yeah, most definitely. And so, like, are you finding other outlets besides music to create and to write, as you said? Like, and writing is like such an amazing thing because if you are able to write correctly, there's a lot that can get done in your life.
True, that's true. Yeah, I've always been a reader my whole life, of mostly fiction, but other stuff as well. But I had never. I kind of always felt like I could write or should write. What I like about it is that it's a very solitary thing, and you can just live many things in your own head. It's kind of like if I'm working on a story or a book or something, which I am, I feel like I'm walking around with a secret world inside of me, and I'm like excited to get back to it. I can go about my workday, and I have this workday, things I have to do, but in the back of my head, I'm like, I got a little special present for me when I get home or whatever, you know. I also find it to be a really good kind of morning meditation. I started just kind of free writing in the mornings, and you know, journaling for anyone it can be magic. Even if you write absolutely nothing that no one else should ever see, it just kind of gets all the crap out of your brain so you can enjoy the present and focus. But through that, I got into the habit of writing in the morning. Hemingway was always a morning writer. A lot of writers talk about, you know, wake up, it's a job, write in the morning. I think there's something magic about it being one of the first things you do after you wake up, after you've been in the space of your unconscious sleeping, you know?
So do you think maybe your next bar will be in the Keys?
That sounds great, yeah.
It's a good idea, right?
Yeah.
You go right in the Keys, hang out there, be warmer than it is here.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I mean, Best Intentions, it's a great name for a bar in the Keys.
I totally agree. We've thought about doing a Best Intentions in other places. The Keys sounds great.
So, are you working with your brother?
Yeah. My brother's my business partner at the bar.
Yeah. And we saw him at Neon Wilderness.
Oh, nice.
I think maybe
Great
that could have started something, or I don't know if she saw you before that or how that happened. But yeah, I think it was just kind of like, wow, like there's like this whole history of like, you know, how sometimes people come in and out of your life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's magical to see, you know, what you've been able to do in the time since we've seen you last.
Yeah.
And you know, I wish you all the best intentions.
Hey, thank you.
Right.
You as well.
Right. All right. Anybody have any questions from the crowd? Questions from the crowd. Dominic Lee.
So, what comes first, the lyrics or the music?
Usually the music for me, but oftentimes simultaneously. I start playing, and really just start singing, see where my head's at, and there'll be nonsense words often right away, or sometimes I luck out and it's something was in there that wanted to come out and it's one line, and that one line can kind of get me going. But for me, I get hooked on melody first with music. I don't often walk on the sidewalk and think of a sentence that I think needs to be a line. Sometimes I do, but most of the time there's a rhythm or a sound or a melody in my head first. Yeah.
Dom again.
Hi, Dominic. You talked a little bit about meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a mantra that you're thinking about whilst meditating?
No, and I will say as a preface, I don't have a very consistent meditation practice, at least as far as what I think classic meditation is. My father meditates on a daily basis, so he's talked to me about it for a long time. But when I do meditate, it's usually just about trying to not think about anything, trying to breathe, and I find it helpful in the rest of my life because I'm naturally a very emotional person, and I'm easily, fired up, or I don't have anger issues, but I'm an emotional person. So remembering to breathe, listen before speaking, maybe taking a breath before I say what I think I want to say. There's a guy, what is his name? Sam, the Waking Up app and Waking Up podcast? Sam Harris, thank you. I haven't listened to a lot of his stuff, but I did listen to a couple of his meditation things, and I took. He says he gives some guidance that other meditation guides do not, because he's a pretty cerebral guy. One of the things I took from him was noticing the breath from its very beginning to its very end, which no one had ever said to me, and that makes a huge difference. It's different than just pay attention to your breath. So I think about that a lot, and I use that a lot. I don't have a mantra, but I also believe, since we're on meditation, that there are many forms of meditation, and they're different for everyone. And some people meditate as they walk, and it's a walking meditation. And some people meditate as they work out, and working out is a meditation. And some people meditate as they, a daydream, I believe, is a meditation. If you're sitting, if you're just sitting there and you don't necessarily have to be thinking about nothing, a meditation can be about something. I just try to take a lot of silent moments without distraction, without the screens or without sounds. My work life is very, I throw a party for a living, basically. Loud music, I DJ the music, tons of intense social interaction with people who are imbibing, so they're very intense, and I try to give as much of myself in that space as I can, it can be taxing. So, I think everybody in every job gives so much of themselves in some way. You just have to remember to give back to yourself. So lately, and this includes music for me and writing, I'm just trying to remember what I need so that I'm then available to give to another human and feel good about it instead of resent it,
You used to resent some of it, I think.
A lot of it, yeah. And actually, fairly recently, opening the bar was hard. It was long hours for many years and giving a lot, and it's just a very time-consuming social endeavor. Yeah. And I would get to the point of burning out where I would resent everything, So cutting down a day has really helped me. And just trying to remember to give to myself. Yeah, that's my mantra. Julia?
I have a two-part
Long mantra.
question about musical influences. And the first part is, what was the first album that you purchased for yourself? Or what was the first album that you remember really connecting with? And then the second part is, what are you listening to now?
First album I purchased for myself, really connected with. I have a vision of a CD of Bare Naked Ladies, that band, but that's a sad answer to me, so I'd rather not that be the answer.
That's a two-part question.
Yeah.
So you can
You
redeem
want it to be
yourself.
Dark Side of the Moon or something?
Yeah, right.
The first time I unfolded Dark Side of the Moon, life changed.
Yeah,
for me.
I was really into Mariah Carey, and I still am into some Mariah Carey, for the record, but I remember, Mariah Carey, Janet Jackson, a lot of R&B when I was a kid, but also a lot of Bob Dylan, Cat Stevens, Beatles, the classic.
The stuff your dad was listening to.
Stuff my dad was listening to, Elvis Costello and Lyle Lovett, and so that influenced my songwriting a lot. I learned to play guitar from the Beatles and Bob Dylan.
You think any part of your playing the guitar was in reference to your father?
Absolutely. Yeah. My parents divorced when I was 11 or 12, and my father moved out, and so probably it was a childhood unconscious attempt to be closer to my father.
Mm-hmm.
So he used to play for us, when we were kids, and we still play together now. And he played a lot of that, Beatles and Bob Dylan, and he's a big Neil Young fan too. So my guitar style, I've noticed only now as I've gotten older, It's kind of this Americana folk, hammer on jangly sound. It's very influenced by my father and his influences too. Now I listen to a lot of stuff, but I listen to a lot of funk and jazz, which you wouldn't think considering what I play. I don't play funk and jazz, but I really love it. I listen to some classical sometimes when I want to be in that space. I'm trying to think if there's something new. I'm still into R&B. I still love R&B. And I'm working on some R&B stuff as well. But
sometimes I think it's hard to know. Actually, this is kind of a product of the Spotify and the weekly discovery. I don't even know what new stuff I'm listening to, but I'm like, it's awesome.
Right.
But then I was like, if I didn't download it, I'm like, I don't know where it went.
Yeah, we're in a very different world that way. I mean, it's all about the single song now, which I think is okay.
Yeah.
I'm not fighting against that at all. I actually think that can be a good thing, because someone doesn't have to like an entire record to buy it or risk buying an entire record.
Yeah, and I think Bianca and I have talked about it before. That format of forcing, in my opinion, artists to develop 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 songs is incredibly limiting to me in essence. Like, I mean, look, yes, I was just referencing our friends Pink Floyd, and maybe 2 or 3 or 4 of their albums have that beginning to end breath. But that is incredibly rare.
It is,
in the landscape of all records ever made. Usually there's a 1 or a 2 and maybe 3 at best that really stand out. And then I feel like the artists have okay, well, there's still 6 more to go.
Yeah, I know.
What do we do here? It's like filling chapters for the wrong reason.
Right. It's always blown my mind that for full records, bands and artists they'll record 20 to 30 songs as like in part of the album recording, and then pick the best. You know? But yeah, I agree. It's extremely difficult, and even in the era of the full record, it was hard to find one that was amazing start to finish.
Yeah, so
when you did, though,
it maybe hit that point, because Julie had said, maybe the first. Maybe what you're listening to, but like anything stick in your brain, like where you were like, because there's definitely some Radiohead stuff that I drop it and I'm like, I'm not touching this until it's over.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, full Radiohead for sure was in my head. Who did the record, The Trials of Van Occupanther? Midlake.
Midlake. Yeah.
That record was it's probably 10 or 15 years ago. That still sticks in my head as one of my favorite records, start to finish. It's easier with instrumental stuff, honestly.
Yeah.
There's a great new record by this group called the Olympians, which is really good. It's instrumental. It's kind of like chill, groovy. It's like if funk slowed down. It's real bass and drums and horns. That's a real cool record, start to finish.
Yeah, it's like walking around your apartment music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I'm gonna put it on, and by the time I'm done, hopefully I'll be walking out the door. Maybe, or I'll just put on another album.
Yeah, for me, possibly my favorite artist of all time is Bill Evans, who's a jazz pianist, and I could listen to him. If I get one artist on till my death, and only one, that's the one for me.
So if you're on an island, you're going to have that stack of Bill Evans?
Yeah, absolutely.
So on an island with a stack of Bill Evans, and then maybe Best Intentions is there,
it's just
you're bartending for the ghost of the island.
Absolutely. Don't get me on ghosts.
No.
It's a bad idea. They're in my life.
Any other questions from the crowd? The crowd is up to 75 now.
Dominic's killing it.
Yeah, he's ready. He's ready. I think he's
I
gonna.
have one.
Thomas.
So on the note of comparing, like, okay, like you have to like maybe stretch yourself to make a record, or you put up a couple songs. How do you approach it? I don't know if you have in the past, or if you are thinking about it. Like, are you approaching like, how do you approach like making a record, or just putting out some songs? Like, what's the concept? Like, what are your thoughts on that for yourself?
In the past, let's see, there's one full-length record that I have out from the past is my old band Nature Show, and that's still out there on iTunes and Spotify. And it's rock and roll. It's definitely heavily Radiohead and Jeff Buckley influenced.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just, we were playing a lot, and we had more time to play, and we were writing songs. And I don't think I consciously thought these songs go together, or we're trying to make a record until later. I think first it happens subconsciously. You're in a space and you're writing, and they're kind of, unless you take a break and go off on some other genre, which I tend to do, you're kind of in a space. But the 3 songs I played today, I would put together.
Right.
Yeah. So actually, I was thinking earlier today when I was thinking about these 3 songs, like, oh, there's half an EP. Maybe I'd drum up on a couple old ones and write a new one and do a 6-song thing. I think that for someone who's not on a label or has a manager pushing them or anything, it kind of either happens or it doesn't. But I will say, the second song I played, I was going to release as a single. But now I'm thinking of holding on to it for a larger work. So that doesn't really answer your question. Concept, I'm rarely a concept record guy. Nature Show has a little bit of like pre-apocalyptic concept to it. For me, I'm a story guy, and I feel like stories are important, and I want each song to be a little story, whether it's me or someone else's story. So as long as the stories aren't completely out of contact, and I think genre is also.
You guys can sit down. It's all good.
I wouldn't put. I'm working on some R&B stuff. I don't even know if I'm going to do it under the same my own name. I don't know where we are in that world. Like, does someone accept? Do music consumers accept an artist who releases a folk record and then releases R&B under the same name? I don't know anymore.
I think it's cool.
I don't know.
Look at Lady Gaga. She bounces all around. Country, pop.
That's true.
Whatever.
Yeah.
John Mayer, he did a little country album.
Yeah.
Dylan used to do it. Yeah, it's all good, man.
Yeah, that's true.
So here's another thing. And I think it's a tough one, right? Because you guys put your music on Spotify, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, I know, like, as whatever we do, we're artists in our own realm, what we do here with different artists, right? So, we can have 2 million users or 5 million users. And for you guys, you put a piece of music out there and, 700 listens, right? So, like, how much does that impact your brain? Like, or are you just like, nope, it's out there, it's ready to go. And, because I can't believe sometimes when I look at a song and I was like, 500 million listens. I was like, and then I listened to the song and I was like, well.
Yeah. Well, now we're in the land of curated lists.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing. I mean, I am even guilty now of checking them out. So Spotify and iTunes and other platforms, they, when you go on and you see a list called R&B, ARE, ampersand BE, I mean, someone chose which songs go on there, and those people have a leg up.
Yeah.
That's just the deal. Now Spotify's a thing, and the independent artists can submit, try to get their song on a playlist. I don't know how well it works.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten on there, but that's a big thing. It's like, it's what radio used to be. If the DJ of the playlist decides to put your song on there, boom, you've got some listens. Yeah. And the amount of listens you need, full listens, to make any money is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just like YouTube. Like if you get 1 million views, you get like $2,500.
Right. Absolutely.
You're like,
it's ridiculous.
Cool.
But for me, you know, I don't know. Thankfully, I've reached a point where I just want to make music and I want to put it out, and I would like to maybe affect a few people.
Yeah.
And it would be great if I could make a living at it. But here's a story that made me think it's worth it to put your music out, even if most people don't give a flying F. I was working at the bar, and we always play different music in the bathrooms, just you know, for a change of pace. So I put my own solo piano meditation record on in the bathrooms while a raging hip hop party. I was DJing that out front. We like there to be a contrast in some way, whether it's personality or straight up genre. And I personally like on the weekends for the restroom to be a restful place. It unfortunately encourages people to hang out in there, but I want it to be like, it's loud in our bar at midnight on Friday, and you know, Rihanna's happening or whatever. So I wanted you to go in there and take a break. So this woman comes out and asks another bartender what was playing in the bathroom, and it was me, which is a little weird. But so she introduces me. What's that?
Was that live?
It was not live. No, that would be a whole nother story. Maybe I'd be on the news.
Yeah, maybe.
So she told me that she was almost crying while peeing, and that she couldn't believe how beautiful the music was, and she had to know what it was, and then she couldn't believe it was me, and what was my name, and how did she find it, and whatever. And then she said, I can't wait, I'm going to listen to it on my way home. It was so beautiful. And which filled my heart, obviously, and made me feel like, you know, that one person is going to go home and listen to this thing that I made, and it meant something to her, you know. Can you change the world like that? Probably not, but maybe.
Change somebody's world.
Maybe. You change somebody's world for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I just know that I need to, that this is one of the things I have to offer the universe. And I've tried to, my practical mind has tried to fight it for a long time. You can't make a living with this, blah, 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 blah. But the 4 or 5 years that I wasn't creating were painful for me. So everyone has their own creativity, whatever it is. And I think that there are many definitions to the word artist. But there's that core part of you that you can try to ignore, but it'll fight its way back. So I feel like I've accepted who I am, but also accepted that I've shed the belief that you're not an artist if you don't make a bunch of money being an artist. If you're an artist, you're an artist. So thanks for having me here, because this is an opportunity for me to, be
most definitely. I think on
unique.
that we can close out the show, and thank you, and see you next month on March 13th. Is that correct? March something.
I like you as an interviewer.
Not bad.
I think you got it in you, yeah. You got a nice relaxed way about you.